What's up? I'm Chris.
What's up? I'm Johnny.
And we're a small fishing team
With a big fishing problem.
We're going back to the Cap for a 3-day private charter
With the Dunbar brothers, and we're gonna show you guys how we rig our slow pitch jigs.
But first, we're gonna catch some fish.
Let's go. Let's go. We're just a few guys decided to pursue our passion. As we hit destination fishing spots in our local waters out of Pompano Beach, Florida, we want to fill you in on what we have learned along the way. So on this trip, I had 4 main goals in mind. I wanted to really test the JohnnyJigs assist hook that we have. Granted, I've tested it in our backyard here, but I wanted to take it to Jurassic Park and put it to the test on some big fish. And then the next thing was, we were checking out the Elevate that was given to us by Temple Reef to try out and see if we like it and what we do and don't like about it. And then the next thing was our new JohnnyJigs Pro Jigger rod. I came there in mind with fishing that majority of the time and really seeing what that rod has to offer. And then the fourth and most important thing, I came to catch fish. So the trip started out pretty hot for me actually. We got there about 4 a.m. to the fishing grounds. So this fish
and,
came up
and I actually started to hit a stride.
Easily like a grouper, and then decided to run. Taking fast runs, but I dropped a 200-gram torpedo down, and as soon as I tapped the bottom, the first reel up, which usually means that it's a grouper, but they want to put that run. Early on, I put a nice tuna in the boat. I ended up hooking up on a nice mutton snapper on the 200-gram torpedo, which is like one of my, go-to jigs for sure on the trip is a torpedo jig. And then things got interesting. I throw my jig out, and before it even hits the bottom, I'm hooked up. And for me out there, that means a tuna fish, a wahoo, a barracuda, right? And then my buddy Mark standing next to me, he's like, dude, I got a sail on. And I'm like, what? It was very confusing and fast all at one time. But then I looked down and Mark did have a sailfish on that got off. And then a second later, not even a second later, he's hooked up on a blackfin tuna. And that just should tell you a little bit about the fishery we're in.
Look at that! Oh! 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 Woo! Come to me. Sailfish on a jig. Josh, I got fish on back there. Tuna on the plug. Want to push that a sailfish when you have a jig? Yeah. Woo!
This fish peeled line. Just peeled. It felt like he went like a quarter mile, off of the bow of the boat. I could be over exaggerating, but it really felt like a quarter of a mile. Way out there.
And I kept cranking on him, and next thing you know, I'm at the stern of the boat. Next thing you know, I'm back at the bow of the boat, and then I'm back down the side.
There he is. Sailfish on the jig.
And we can see the fish, and he just does this killer tail walk. I asked the mates, Josh and Tony, I would like to, get this fish back in the water alive. Chris was next to me filming, had the idea, why don't you guys try and, see if you can't get the gap around the jig, pull the fish up, and then pull the hooks out. And the guys did a phenomenal job. They pulled the fish up exactly like that. They got out 3 of the 4 hooks, and then the last hook, they cut it off. He went down a little bit slow. He was dazed. I think any fish would be, just from the fight that he and I pursued. But after a while, you could see him start to move, and he swam away.
Yeah! Good job, guys. Come on. Swim, buddy, swim. Come on, swim, dude. Come on. Just swim away. Keep going, guys. Keep there. There he goes.
Now for today's quick tip. All right, guys, today we're gonna dig into how to properly rig a slow pitch jig. I wanna talk about some of the components that go into it and why we use them. So the first couple things that you're gonna need is a ball bearing swivel, 2 triple split rings, and 2 sets of assist hooks is what I'm gonna be using. And the reason why that we use a ball bearing swivel is that if you watch a jig underwater and the action that the jig imparts, a lot of times the jig will spin in circles, and over time of pitching that jig up and down, it's gonna start spinning your line. So the ball bearing swivel is not just an added extra thing, it's actually an important part of rigging your jig. And the next thing that I want to tell you about is the 2 triple split rings. So this one that I have in my hand, you can see that it has 3 wraps to it. That's why we call it a triple split ring. And the reason for this is if you've ever had a split ring, a double split ring, separate on you or come apart on you, it's a very disappointing thing. And we use these because they're 130-pound test, and they are definitely die hard. Over time, it'll start to fold over on itself after fighting large fish, and then you're gonna wanna change it out. And then the next thing is I have my JohnnyJigs assist hooks matched with Hytina Kevlar cord and then a solid ring on top. I have these pre-assembled. A lot of times I'll tie these before going on a big fishing trip. I make sure that I have quite a few of these in my bag. So the first thing I do is I check to see that my hooks are facing towards each other. If they're not, you can make minor adjustments to get them to face towards each other. Because the idea is that when a fish bites onto it, then the hooks do this. And it's like a grappling hook for the fish. Some people do like to have the shrink tube on top of it. Personally, I prefer not to have the shrink tube because I like them to be more streamlined. That way the jig can do the action that it's designed to do. And last but not least, one of the most important and necessary things to have for a slow pitch jigger is a pair of split ring pliers. All of the things that I'm mentioning you can find on the website at JohnnyJigs.com. So let's dig in. All right, guys, first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my triple split ring and I'm gonna grab it with my pliers. Now, I like to grab it just a little ways back. I don't actually get it right at the edge. That way I have room to slide the solid ring of my assist hooks in there. So what I do is I use a little bit of pressure from the solid ring to grab it with the split ring. Once it's locked in like that, I reset my pliers and I go ahead and spin it on. This is gonna be my top set of assist hooks. I grab the split ring again, and then I separate it, and then I get my ball bearing swivel, and I repeat the process. I slide that welded ring right into the split ring, and I spin it on. Whenever I'm getting ball bearing swivels to set up my slow pitch jigs, what I'm looking for
is a ball bearing swivel that has a big enough solid ring to slide freely across my split ring, as you can see, because I don't want it catching the opening right there and actually unthreading itself. I want it to be able to spin as freely as possible on there. A lot of times you could look for a number 3, 4, or 5, you know, in the Spro, or even Tsunami makes the ball bearing swivels. That's not bad. And so that's my top set of assist hooks. So then I take my split ring again, and I'm starting to rig my bottom set of assist hooks. I grab it back just a little ways, that way I could thread my solid ring inside, and then I spin it on. So then I take my bottom set of assist hooks and I grab my jig. I'm using the flat back 300 gram JohnnyJigs flat back, and I go ahead and I thread that on to the bottom of my jig, just like so. Next, I take my top set of assist hooks. Same idea. I use the jig to spread apart the split rings a little bit further, the split ring, and I thread that on. Now we have a fully assembled jig. You'll tie your leader right onto this ball bearing swivel, and now you're ready for action.
I guess the jigging life ain't so simple.
This trip was exciting because we had so many different rods to play with, as John was talking about. And we had the JohnnyJigs Pro Jigger Power 3 on the boat. The Power 2s were actually just dropped off in our shop today. Today's September 4th. So we have those here as well, but we had the Power 3 on the boat, which John commandeered a lot of the time. I was able to sneak it away from him periodically throughout the 2 days that we were fishing, and I definitely got on some good fish. And really what was cool about using that rod is the strength of it. My Innovate 8.0 by Temple Reef is definitely a rod that I'm using primarily on the Yankee Cap, and one cool feature about that rod that we've talked about with you guys before is that you can pump and reel that thing. You can really fight the fish with the Innovate, and I was experiencing the same results from the JohnnyJigs Pro Jigger, that the strength that rod had allowed me to fight big fish, and I was hooked up to some real monsters throughout the weekend. And it wasn't a necessarily point the rod down and just work them with the reel. There was a lot of action I was able to engage in through the rod, getting some of those bigger fish up. That was really, really cool to see. I've been spending a lot of time sourcing the products that we carry here at JohnnyJigs, and really dialing in, you know, all the higher end materials, you know,
Hooked up, baby.
you know, that we use, the hooks that we have here now, the triple raffle split rings that are 130 pound pull strength, the cord that we're using, and as John was saying, how happy we are of not having any tackle failures, you know, throughout the entirety of this trip. Kind of was the proof in the pudding that we're really able to get our hands and offer just high quality gear.
God.
How you feeling right now, Johnny?
Excellent. Johnny Jigs work.
Oh, wait, hold on. It's the camera's black. What jig was that on?
Johnny Jigs.
Oh, yeah.
Day after day, I trust Johnny Jigs. Johnny Jigs. YouTube and online.